Colton's sister, otherwise known as Barry. I graduated from Texas A&M. We know we got a couple Aggies. Whoop. And so what we've done is we have all spent a month in Kenya at the beginning of the summer, and now we're on an 8-week awareness tour, just going around and talking to youth groups and churches and at different events about the work that God is doing in Kenya. That's kind of goofy. That's who we are, and we're missing 2 team members. They got bit by a lion on safari, so we're down 2 people, but no, just kidding, they're sick. But we're really excited to be here with you guys.
Hi guys, I'm Emily and I go to Pepperdine.
I'm TJ, I'm from North Carolina and I go to UNC Charlotte.
TJ really likes microphones.
I hate microphones.
TJ might just yell at you.
Yeah,
is that okay?
Is it? I know you're recording this, but is it alright if I...
Sorry.
Alright.
Yeah.
Alright, so we've got a video that just is going to kind of introduce you to the ministry that we work with, and it sort of chronicles the journey of some kids that are living in the streets of Nairobi, Kenya, to the boarding school that we've spent time working with. So we'll play that and then we will explain more and just tell you guys some stories. That's kind of our goal tonight, is just share stories with y'all, so you can have an idea of what God is doing in another part of the world and maybe be inspired to do something yourself. And yeah.
As I think about this place, I'm just reminded that Nairobi is the capital city of Kenya, and a lot of people come here to pursue a dream or to make something good happen in their life and leave a place of little potential to come and start over. Nairobi's a broken city full of broken dreams, oppression, poverty, corruption, heartbreak. We're here to seek those that so many others have abused and left behind and ignored or oppressed. And of course that's street children.
Farther along, I know all about it. Farther along, understand why. So cheer up, my brothers, live in the sunshine. Will understand this all by and by. Tempted and tried, I wonder why the good man dies, bad man thrives, and Jesus cries 'cause he loves them both. We're all castaways in need of rope, hanging on by the last threads of our hope. In a house, a mirror full of smoke, confusion, illusions I've seen. But where did I go wrong? I sang along to every chorus of the song that the devil wrote, like a piper at the gate, leading my some men down to their fate. Some will courageously escape the seductive voice with the heart of faith, while walking the line back home. There's so much more to life than we've been told. It's full of beauty that will unfold and shine like you struck gold, my wayward son. The dead weight burden weighs a ton. I'll go down to the river and let it run, wash away all the things you've done. Forgiveness, alright.
So our purpose now has become to be going out to the streets every day and invite children who are at the ages of 12 to 16. And we invite them to come to Meet in the Streets. We ask them to stop using glue, and bang, and marijuana, and other sorts of drugs that they have out there on the streets. And those who show the desire to do that, then we invite them to our program, which is in Kamulu. It is the boarding program where we teach them the basic English, maths, and Bible.
Live in the sunshine, we'll understand this all by and by. Oh yeah. La 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 la. But still I get heart-raced on every side, between the rock and the compromise, like truth in a pack of lies fighting for my soul. I got no place left to go, 'cause I got changed by what I've been shown. It's more glory than the world has known, keeps me rambling on and skipping like a calf loosed from his stall. I'm free to love once and for all, and even when I fall, I get back up for the joy that overflows my cup. Heaven filled me with more than enough, broke down my levees and my bluffs, let the flood wash me. And one day when the sky rolls back on us, some rejoice and the others fuss, 'cause every knee must bow and tongue confess the Son of God, He's forever blessed. His is the kingdom and we're the guests, so put your voice up to the test. Sing, Lord, come so oh, yeah. Farther along the way, no one about it. Farther along the way, understand why. So cheer up, my brothers, live in the sunshine. We'll understand this all by and by.
Do you guys have cell phones? Okay. First order of business. If you guys would pull out your cell phones and take a picture of us. Just kidding. Open Twitter on your cell phone and follow us on Twitter at MITS Kenya. And our 500th Twitter follower gets a free t-shirt. So if you are number 500, we're still a little bit ways away from that, but make your friends follow us and they might get a free t-shirt. You can also follow us on Instagram at Made in the Streets. And then like us on Facebook. I don't know if anybody uses Facebook anymore, but y'all should like. Colton does. Hey, Colton.
Do you get a shirt for Instagram too?
No, sorry. Our 1000th Facebook like gets a shirt, but that might be a while from now. Okay, so while you're doing that, I'll go ahead and explain to you guys a little bit about how Made in the Streets works, and who we are and where we are. So at the beginning of the video, you heard the man talking about Nairobi, Kenya. Nairobi is the capital city of Kenya. There are approximately 4 million people in Nairobi, and 1 million of those people, so a quarter of those people, live in slums. Meaning they live in extreme poverty without electricity or running water. The commercials that you see, like for the starving children that live on less than $1 a day, that's the kind of people that we get to work with, and it's awesome. Of those 1 million people living in slums, there are 60,000 children under the age of 18 living on the streets of Kenya. And so kids from ages 12 to 18 is who we work with. So we've got a facility in the streets that has a staff of 5 Kenyans that go out every single day and minister to children and men and women living on the streets. So they go out and form relationships and get to know them and love on these people that have no hope and that have never really been shown love before. Most of the kids that live in the streets end up there because of abuse. Their parents beat them or just don't want them. They can't take care of them, and so they send them to the streets to work or collect like scrap metals and sell scrap metals, or to beg. Or some kids just end up going there because home life is so bad. So on the streets, you saw also in the video some kids with bottles kind of stuck to their lips. Most of the students that we work with from the streets have addiction to drugs, and the cheapest thing that they can get is shoe glue. And so the glue that they use to like repair the soles of shoes, the kids can buy that for like 3 cents, a whole bottle, and they just sniff it and inhale it to numb the pain and the hunger and to stay warm. So Nairobi's on the equator, but it's at a pretty high elevation and it gets cold at night. So they sniff glue so they don't have to shiver and think about the fact that they're cold. So our staff at our facility in the slum area has programs for these kids every week where they can come and have a meal and play games and take a shower and also hear the gospel. These Kenyans that work there are preaching to them with their words, but also just their actions. They love on these kids that nobody wants to have anything to do with. Street kids stink because they don't shower, and they also, a lot of times to get by, will steal, and so they're kind of known as thieves, and so nobody wants to be around a smelly thief, except Man in the Streets just goes out and loves them and accepts them and spends time with them, and even the smallest things like giving them hugs. We always hug the street kids because nobody hugs them. So from there, from the streets, if they start coming regularly and express a desire to change their life and get out of the streets, we, if they are between the ages of 12 and 16, give them an opportunity to come out to our boarding school in a neighborhood called Kamulu. And it's in a rural area away from the streets. And so if they want to come, and if they say that they want to get off drugs and go to school, then we bring them out to the farm in Kamulu, and they get an education and a family, and they are preached to, they're just preached love and preached Jesus every day. And once they turn 16, they learn a job skill so that they can be trained and eventually find a job when they turn 18 and be productive in society and just break that cycle of street life that they get caught in. Just a couple notes. Street life for these kids is an addiction, just like drugs can be an addiction. They have a false sense of freedom when they're out in the streets. There's nobody telling them what to do or where to be. And so it's a struggle for these kids to come off the streets, and it's Jesus working in their hearts, I completely believe, because to see kids addicted to drugs and stealing to going from that to having jobs. We've got a couple stories about some of our successful students, and it's just incredible. So we just want to share with you a little bit about the transformation that we got to see and be a part of this summer, and just hopefully you'll see Jesus in that.
So one of my favorite things to do was go to the programs that Barry talked about, and they have programs for kids that can become students and also for other homeless people that can never become students because they're already adults or they're too young at the time. And one of my favorite things was the mother's class on Mondays. And how many of you are over the age of 13? Raise your hand. So pretty much everyone. All of you girls then could be carrying a little baby right now of your own on the streets, because at around 13 is when things start happening on the streets, and one day you have a kid. And the Mother's Program lets anyone come in, any females that are pregnant, right, or have kids. And there's girls that are 13 and girls that are 18 and women that are like 30 come in and with these little tiny children that are malnourished and in ratty clothes. And they're just sad when they come in because no one looks at them. No one offers to help them. No one offers to rock their baby when it's crying. And we start with asking them their names and asking them their baby's name and telling them, oh, your girl is so cute, or I like her braids, just like little things. And they start to smile. Because, I mean, we all get hellos from our friends every day, but they don't really get a lot of people that talk to them. And after we start kind of like picking up the beat, we kind of share some verses and some songs and kind of pray over each other. And then we play some games. Like, anyone here played Big Booty? I had never played until I went to Kenya. I was the first person out. We were playing in English and they all speak Swahili. So it was pretty embarrassing. But to see them all like sing and count in English and to have a great time and to laugh and like become a community was really amazing. And afterwards they asked if they could pray over myself and Barry, and I was just in shock because here I am, 19 years old, at a great school, not worrying about taking care of like a baby, and these girls in the streets want to pray over me. And I was just touched because their faith is so strong, yet they struggle so much with the physical challenges of life that I'm just blessed with automatically. And one of the women that helped us lead the class was Elisa. And she's actually a former street kid herself, except now she has a family, 2 beautiful kids, and a pink house. So it's like Pepto-Bismol pink. It's pretty outrageous. The neighborhood kind of thinks she's crazy for it, but she has her own house. She was living on the streets as a young girl, and she has a house and it's pink because she wanted a pink house. And it's just so amazing to see like her raising her children with her husband and then preaching to these women on the streets saying like, if you believe in God and you work hard, like you can get off the streets, you can change your life. Because everyone knows that anyone in your family, you want the best for them. And it was so cool to see Elisa kind of extend that to others. And one Sunday night, Elisa and her husband Lauren invited our team over for Sunday night dinner. And I was like, oh, okay, like this is gonna be cool. Like Elisa married like some husband and he's some like fancy chef. And we sit down, and after dinner he's telling us how he was a street kid too. And now he's cooked for the president of Kenya twice. And he works at the university, and he's just this really like upbeat, happy, laughing guy. And I was like in shock, like, whoa, like you're both from the streets. And now you both have jobs, and you're both living and working and raising a family in a pink house. And it was just so cool because Laurent was so proud, but very humble. He's like, me, I'm a street kid, and I cook for the president. And I was just like, wow, like you started on the streets, and now you work for the president. Like, I started in a pretty decent home, and I'm just going to school right now, not doing anything with the president of any country. And as we were talking to Lauren, he told us how the Colstons, the couple, Charles and Darlene, that started Made in the Streets, how when they started to work in Nairobi and started to have a weekly program from some street boys, and they'd offer them some scripture, maybe a meal or some shoes, just kind of a weekly, like, let's see each other, let's share Jesus Christ with you. And he was saying how once they took them in, like actually to live with them, a couple of the boys that couldn't give up stealing, that couldn't break that addiction and follow Jesus completely with their trust, they ended up back in the streets. They ended up stealing again. They ended up doing drugs, getting shot, dying young, or they're still on the streets. And he was saying how, don't forget where you came from, or you'll forget where you're going. And that really hit me because maybe I've never lived on the streets, but I've dealt with a lot of things in my past, whether it's tragedies in my family or just own challenges with my head. And I was like, wow, like, I've definitely just blocked that all out completely. Like anyone here that's had a tough time, you try to put it behind you and move forward. And he basically was telling us that you have to remember the dark times you've been through so that you can live your best life for the Lord every day. And I was just so inspired by him that I should remember everything I've been through. I remember that Jesus got me through it, and that I can just keep going. So one day maybe I can have a pink house of my own with 2 adorable kids.
Okay, I actually have 2 stories that I want to share. One of them is my own personal story, and then one of them is one of our team members who isn't here right now. I'm going to share that one with you because I feel like it really shows just how much God is working. But I'll start with mine first. So at Made in the Streets, we stayed out in Kamulu with the kids, and there's a boys' compound and a girls' compound, and I got to stay on the boys' compound because I'm a boy, and that's what we do. So staying with the boys is interesting because you have a bunch of teenage boys confined in a small space, and they spend every single day with each other, and things get a little rowdy and things get a little rough. And on top of that, they're street kids. So all they know is how to survive, how to look out for themselves. So there were a couple times where it got, we had to break up some fights, or things were said, or people were mad, or stuff like that. But one kid that I met, his name was Davis, and he was a little different than the rest of the boys. He didn't act as tough as the rest of the boys. He was more open and more friendly with everybody. And so that's kind of what drew me to him, is just because he was so open and loving. And so right off the bat, I could tell that he was a special kid. And then I come to find out that he's an artist. He draws cartoons all the time. He has a notebook full of cartoon drawings. He's pretty good. I have some of his artwork in my Bible on a letter that he wrote me, if y'all want to see it later. But every time I would talk to him, no matter what the subject was, whether it was soccer or like our future or whatever, he always talked about his mother, and how much he loved his mom and all the things that him and his mom would do together. And so it was really neat to hear just how much that he cared about his mom, and I could tell that it was hard for him to have to give up living with her and seeing her every day in order to pursue this better life. And he wouldn't. The boys are very stubborn when it comes to talking about their past. They don't like to get sensitive, as most guys would agree. I think you guys would agree with that. We don't like getting emotional for the most part. So most of the boys wouldn't open up completely about their testimonies and their stories and how they made it to Made in the Streets. But from what he told me, his relationship with his mom was very good. He lived in a slum called Mathare, which is the second largest slum in Nairobi. So it's just like miles upon miles of 6x6, 10 shacks, with no electricity, no running water. And so he didn't come from the best conditions, as most of these kids don't. But he always talked about how if he doesn't become an artist, he wants to be a team member at Made in the Streets when he graduates. He wants to become a staff member to help other street kids through their process of recovery and to discover their new life. And that to me was just so awesome to see that God has taken this child who lived on the streets, who has every reason not to want to do something with their life or to hate everybody that they come into contact with. And he's just molded him into this wonderful man who wants to help others who are in need, when he himself is just as much in need. And so that was really inspiring for me. Davis is an awesome kid, and like as soon as I can, I'm going back to see him. So yeah, that was very life-changing. And then the second story, I may have to ask them about some details because it's not my story, but we've heard it a lot. So Alexandra, who is not with us, she is in Plano right now. She's having some medical problems, she's getting tested. So if y'all will be praying for her, just throw that out there. But she became very good friends with a girl named Patricia. And Patricia, one day on their way to chapel, said, I'd like to tell you my testimony and my story. So Alexandra said, okay. And Patricia lived with her mother and her stepfather in Mathare, where Davis came from. And she loved her mother very much, but her father she didn't very much care for. Her stepfather she didn't very much care for. At the age of 6, he started beating her. He would beat her every day for various reasons, whether it was she showed up late or she didn't do something right, but he would just beat her. And her mom did nothing to stop that. And then at the age of 9, she became responsible for the household. Cooking, cleaning, doing the dishes, taking care of the babies, everything. So her mother didn't have to do any work, and her mom just sat by and let it happen. And her father continued to beat her on top of all this. So it was just compiling stuff for reasons for him to beat her. And then at the age of 11, let me backtrack a little bit. At the age of 9, she also got to go to school, which is very uncommon for most of the kids in our program. Most of them have never had a day of education in their life. So she was privileged in that way, and she tried to look at it as a blessing, but she quickly realized that on top of managing the household, being beaten, and going to school, it was nearly impossible to please anybody. She said that she tried to be positive while she was at school, and that she tried to look at it as a blessing, but all she could think about was, well, I have to do this when I get home, or I can't be too late when I get home, or I got to make this grade on this test. And so she said it became more of a curse than a blessing. And so at age 11, her stepfather started raping her. And that continued until she was the age of 13. And she found out she was pregnant with her stepfather's child. And this is where Made in the Streets stepped in. They removed her from the home and brought her out to Kamulu. They actually took her father to court, which is very unheard of, very rarely ever happens. And he is serving 22 years in jail. So it's kind of like a justice on earth type thing. But Alexandra always says that at this point, she was like infuriated. Like she was mad at the story that she was being told because it didn't seem fair at all. And she asked for Patricia, wrong girl. She asked Patricia, how do you look at, she had a boy named Raphael. He's the cutest kid I've ever seen, but he is very grumpy. I think I've seen him smile maybe twice. But he's just a cute little kid. So she asked her, how could you look at Raphael and love him, knowing that he was your stepfather's child? And she said, Patricia said at first, it was really hard. I couldn't even look at him without just hating him, because it reminded me of my stepfather every single time I looked at him. But she said that through counseling and talking with Made in the Streets staff, she came to realize that Raphael is a child of God, just like she is. And her exact words was that she was lucky and blessed to be his mother. And I know I wasn't there for that moment, but I can just tell that God is doing such amazing things in these kids' lives. Raphael's 1.5 now. He still doesn't smile at all. But she loves him every day. And every day she looks at it as a blessing. And it's just so awesome to see how God can take a terrible situation like that and just completely work in it and make it his. And just work in Patricia's heart. And everybody that helped her, they were an instrument of God's hands. And so I just want to share that with you guys, just to show you that God is working in so many ways, and God will work through the most broken people and the worst situations, and he will make beautiful things out of it. So Barry's got a story.
So the theme verse for Made in the Streets, it's been the same verse since the ministry started, comes from Psalm 113. And it says, God lifts the poor people out of the ash heaps and seats them in a place of honor among the princes of his people. And when the first time I went to Made in the Streets, I was a freshman in college. And I saw that verse on the website. And don't judge me, but the thought that went through my head was, that is such a cute verse because I'm going to work with poor people. And it wasn't until after I was there and experienced the people and what God's doing there that I realized that verse is not just about people who are lacking things, who are materially poor. That verse is about me and about my heart. And I'm one of those poor people that God rescued from the trash heap and seats in a place of honor. And so I say that to tell you my story about Catherine. I had lots of conversations. I lived in Kenya for a year, and conversations like this one that I had with Catherine happen all the time, but I was talking to her, and she was new. She had just come in from the streets and hadn't spent a whole lot of time around visitors. And so she was like, well, you know, I've got a lot of problems in my life, and I told her, I know. And she was like, you wouldn't understand them though, because you're white and you're rich and you're an American. And I looked at her and was kind of at a loss for words, because honestly, in comparison, my problems aren't that heavy. They aren't as dark as hers may be. Just as far as the things that she has been through and the things that she's seen in her life and the struggles that she's had to overcome. So I was sort of taken aback and didn't really know what to say. And then that verse came to mind, that God takes poor people and seats them in a place of honor. And we sat there and talked about how we're both broken and we both have problems. But the thing that looks different for us, but the thing we do have in common is just Jesus, and that's enough. And it's beautiful that this girl that grew up on the streets and me growing up in New Braunfels, Texas, in pretty comfortable conditions, could have something in common, something that unites us. And so our goal sitting up here in front of you is not to say, oh, look at what we did, or, oh, you have to go to Africa and help poor people. But really just to show you that, you know, we're all broken, and the one thing we need is Jesus. And that you guys and us, we have ties to our brothers and sisters all over the world because of Jesus. And that's such an incredible and beautiful thing. And like TJ said, that God is just working and taking really broken people and broken situations in Kenya and in New Braunfels and making really beautiful things out of it. So I think TJ's got one last thing.
Okay, so the moment for me when I just totally felt God at Made in the Streets was we were doing base walking, so we were visiting the street kids where they hang out. And this one particular day, we were pretty, not in a good mood. We had a chili pepper eating contest the night before, and so we felt like we had giant holes in our stomachs. You know, it was really hot, and we had to walk an hour and a half on Kenyan roads, which are terrible. But we get to this base, and it's a 10 shack on a pile of garbage. There's about 30 to 40 boys and men hanging out at this shack. And so we share our encouragement, and we share our verses, and we talk with them, and we get to know them a little bit. And we're about to leave, and one of the street kids stands up and says, I want to share with you guys. And we were kind of skeptical of this because we didn't know what he was going to say. And so we said, okay, you can go ahead and share. And he said, I want to share a verse, and I want to share some encouragement with you guys before you go. And so he shared John 14, verse 1 and 2. No Bible or nothing, just stood up and said, I have a verse I want to share. And it says, do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in my Father, so also believe in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If it were not so, would I tell you that I'm going there to prepare a place for you. And then he says, I may not be as privileged as you guys are. I may not have all the things that you have, but I know no matter where I'm at, whether I'm in the streets here, or I'm at Made in the Streets, or I'm in $1 million mansion, as long as I have my hope and trust in Jesus, whenever he comes back to this earth, he's going to take me with him. And I was just I was speechless. You know, this street kid who literally has nothing, just put me in my place. You know, because I was so blessed. I was blessed with the opportunity to go over to Kenya. I'm blessed to travel around the United States and share these stories. You know, I'm blessed just to be an American, to have a full family that loves me and can provide for me. And this kid who literally lives in trash believes with all of his heart that God is looking out for him, no matter where he's at. And so, like Barry said earlier, I just want to encourage you guys to get involved with the ministry. You don't have to go to Africa. It's not for everybody. I'm not saying that you have to go to Africa. If you want to go, that's wonderful. I pray that you get so many blessings out of it. But if you just have to work in New Braunfels, Texas, I know that God is going to work wherever you go. As long as you believe in Him and you put your trust in Him, He's going to look out for you. And you're going to see so many beautiful things come from it. And so I just want to encourage you guys, just get involved with something. Make use of your time. You're young. Take advantage of it. I'm road weary and I'm 19 years old. So I'm a little older than some of you guys. So I know you have youthful spirits and a lot of energy, as I noticed earlier. So I would encourage you just to use it. Use it to glorify God. He gave it to you. He gave us this day. He's possibly going to give us tomorrow. So why not use it to glorify Him? So thank you guys for letting us speak to you. It's been a real pleasure. If you guys have any questions or just want to talk, we could literally talk about this until the sun rises tomorrow, and then some. So if you have any questions, we have a merchandise booth over here. We'll be hanging out. Feel free to chat with us. Am I forgetting anything? Oh, yes. Time out. I'll get to you in a second. Okay, so we're the Handmade Tour. That's our official name. And it's called that because most of the products that we sell were handmade by the kids at the program. The bracelets, everything except for the t-shirts. Those are made in America. I'm sorry. American Apparel, very soft. But yeah, all of this is handmade products. All the proceeds go back to benefit the kids, to expand the program, to have better resources for them. They're actually at maximum capacity right now. They have 87 students, and they don't take any kids in that they can't have a bed for. So they're working really hard to try and expand, to bring more kids in, and to just bring more people to Christ. So any little thing you can do helps, whether it's prayers or donations or buying some merchandise. We appreciate you guys and everything that you do. We appreciate your time, just for listening to us. Hope y'all have a great night.
Ask you some questions.
Yeah.
Like, how did you get involved? How did you find out about it? How did you get where you got to go to take a trip? Like, say a kid goes, hey, I'm here. I would love to go to Africa. I'd want to be a part. I'd want to partner with you guys, maybe financially. I'd want to partner maybe in taking a trip down. How are ways they could be involved in what y'all are doing? Besides buying a t-shirt tonight.
Okay, well, each of us has a different story on how we got involved. For me, my youth minister, he visited down there in 2009, came back and made a presentation on it, and I was just like blown away. And so I decided that I wanted to go to Africa, but I never really had like a way to get down there. And then this summer internship came up, and it's, you go spend a month in Kenya, and then you spend 2 months on the road traveling to different churches all across the states, speaking at events, just talking about your experience. So that's one way you can get involved.
How did you apply for that? Did you apply for that internship?
Yeah, okay. So it's basically like applying for a job. Yes, if you visit madeinthe.streets.org /internship, they're already taking applications for next summer. If you want to do this internship and be part of this awesome history that we are a part of. They love having new people, visitors all the time. And yeah.
Hold that thought. I have another thought that I have to say before I forget it. But we take groups all the time. So it can be your youth group, or even if you just have a group of friends, if you're maybe high school seniors and want to go to Africa, or my Aggies back there. Aggies take trips every summer, and we love visitors. That's sort of the heartbeat of Made in the Streets, and it's beautiful that people from the States can partner with these Kenyans and encourage them and love on them. So if you want to go through the internship at madeinthestreets.org/internship, or just as a group, visitors are always welcome. And we also do a sponsorship program. That's how we're able to keep our kids fed and educated. And it's $75 a month to sponsor a kid. And we've got groups that sponsor kids. So again, if a group of your friends, $75 is kind of a lot for a high school student. So if you're interested in sponsoring a kid, we've got two new girls, Charlene and Beatrice, that just came in and don't have sponsors yet. So if you guys are interested in doing that, come find me after we talk and we can talk about that. So there was another way. Oh, if you just want to donate your money, which we appreciate and love and need, then you can also go to madeinthestreets.org/donate. So.
And y'all gonna hang out afterwards and talk and we'll kids can ask you questions?
Yes. And I think Jacob had a question.
Oh yeah. I was gonna ask if you had to be like in college to do the internship, like the age.
The age requirement for the internship is either going into, in college, but you can be like a graduated high school senior and apply, and I think that's what these guys did, right? No? You were, wait, when did y'all apply though? Okay, so if you're, right now, if you're about to go into school, about to go into college, then you are eligible to apply. You probably can't apply because you're too old and not in college, sorry. So if you're in college, you can apply. Yeah.
When can groups only come during the summer?
The question is, can groups only come during the summer? No, you can come anytime.
There we go. You can come 2 groups. You're right.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.